Hi, welcome to another My Sales Day podcast. Really glad that you're here, and I know you're going to enjoy this sit down that I had with Brian McFarland, an exceptionally seasoned veteran in the sales game. Also, someone with whom I've had the distinct pleasure of working with on the inside on a couple different occasions. It's a very revealing interview when Brian admits to a couple things. Number one, how he was able to grow some thick skin and not be so sensitive as a seller as he admits he was in his early years. And number two, how Brian dealt with his biggest account that was going south because of some things Brian was doing to erode some of the trust with that account. Very vulnerable of Brian to admit to some of those things that are going on and share them here with us on this show. If you're looking for a daily jolt of skill tips and inspiration, here's my plug for the My Sales Day newsletter. Head on over to MySalesDay.io and sign up. It's one-click sign up, and you'll be glad you did it. Once again, the URL, MySalesDay.io. All right, let's now take a look at the interview between me and Brian. Brian McFarland, welcome to the My Sales Day podcast.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm happy to be here.
I am happy too. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling so good, and I am so pumped up to see you, and to just have this opportunity. So,
good.
Never better.
Good.
Never better.
Good. Brian McFarland, I've enjoyed seeing you sell over many phases of a successful career. And yeah, I'm really excited you're here too to share your expertise. Hey, as a reminder, our listeners are eager to pick up more than just a tip or two that can make a difference in their sales lives. I know you got tons to share because you have been a seller who has great 360 vision and closing abilities. So what do you say we dive in, because our listeners want to gain that edge, and I know you can help. You ready?
100%. Let's go.
First segment. I don't mean to brag, but all right, click. That was the spotlight getting turned on you, baby. This should be fun because you get to boast about one of your many defining career wins. Seriously though, me and the listeners want to know about a big win of yours that you are really proud of. So talk to us.
I'll talk to you. Well, you're familiar with the Verizon Wireless company, small little company that provides mobile tech communication.
Yeah.
And 27 years ago, I got a job at Rolling Stone, and they were running a donut with Rolling Stone. And 4 years later, they were running $10 million a year with Rolling Stone.
Oh, jeez. My
including
gosh.
Concert productions. I met every celebrity who was anybody, co-produced events with them, walked over $500,000 checks to Justin Timberlake's office to get him on board to do a program with that. And it defined who I became in sales, because they have continuously been my largest client wherever I've went. And it was about finding the right people at the right time, gaining their trust, understanding who were the key decision makers by just consistently being down at that agency, a skill that we called lobby squatting, whether or not you have an appointment, going into an agency and sitting there, because at every point someone has to come out of their offices. And I would make it worth their while to spend even 5 minutes with me on that agency couch and get to know them. And it hyper accelerated the development of an account, like I said, from 0 to 10 million in just 4 years.
That's huge. Congratulations. That's a lot. And of course, as we hear, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years to get there. But through the one thing you mentioned, which you know my eyes light up, trust. That is pretty much what we're selling when we are in sales. We are selling ourselves as the trustworthy component to help customers connect dots to the solutions they need. I love it. Great story. All right.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the Let's Meet Our Guest segment. Flash round. I want our listeners to learn a little bit more about Brian McFarland, so we're going to go fast. Number one, how many years in sales?
45.
But you're only 32 years old? Number two, how many of those years? Okay, 45. Let's slow down. You got to be including like pre-college and stuff like this, right?
Yes, yes, yes. But
Okay.
I've literally been selling since my early teens and just realized that was career. If you're asking like my career in media sales, it's been 31 years.
Yeah, good, good. How many of those years were you frustrated as shit?
45.
I ask the question all the time, and I get pretty much the same answer. But being frustrated and being fulfilled are not mutually exclusive. Okay.
Nope.
Number
Nope.
3, flash round. Complete the sentence. If I hadn't gone into sales, I would have become a.
Professional rock and roll drummer that toured the world.
Oh, dude, I love that. Having sat in on many of your cover band concerts, I can attest, everybody, if Brian McFarland comes to town, go see his band. Number 4, complete the sentence. I love selling because.
It provides limitless opportunities for both personal satisfaction and financial reward.
Love it. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, money is what does drive a lot of our motivation. And people who are on sales should not be embarrassed to admit that they're there for the money. However, I always am a little worried when someone over-indexes on the money thing, because there's so many other redeeming elements to a sales career. For example, you mentioned early with the Verizon story, trust. There's something very magical when we build trust with another human being. And when they hand over money to us, that's the highest representation of what that trust can look like.
Correct.
All right, let's move on. Next chapter called My Superpower Skill Is. Now, let me set this up.
Sure.
The point of this segment is to reinforce every seller has a superpower, right? Or 5. I want our listeners to focus on their fastballs as much as their development areas. So, what's your superpower? How do you describe the one skill that never fails you?
My number one superpower skill, without fail, is gaining trust. Faster and deeper than anyone you've ever met. Because
Whoa, big assertion there, Mr.
big
McFarland.
assertion. I know that. Life is about gaining trust in every single relationship you develop, whether it's with your pet, whether it's with your child, whether it's with your coach or your colleague. And how I have gone about gaining trust, which started so naturally, was understanding that when you listen to people and what they want, they'll listen to you. But notice, you have to listen to them first. And I did that with Verizon. I listened to what do you want? What do you need? Both as personal and professionals. I did it with the largest account I've won at my current company, by understanding what the woman on a Zoom call, above all things, what she needed. How could I build my trust with her and gain her trust by understanding what she needed and then also letting her know what I needed. I thought when I want to influence someone, the best way to influence someone is allow them to influence you first. What can they show me that they want or want to teach me, so that they will then feel comfortable allowing me to then influence them? Same scenario with the people on Verizon, sitting on the couch in that agency, sitting down at a Washington Capitals game in Washington, D.C., with the woman whose trust that I built that led to our largest account in history. And then finally, caring. A quote I live by, and very much we've discussed in the many years we worked together. People that take care of you, or you take care of, will do whatever they can, or we will do whatever we can to take care of them in both our personal and professional lives. So that closes the loop to me of how do you accelerate gaining someone's trust, is doing all those things and doing them out of not chasing the dollar, about chasing a human relationship, because the dollars will follow.
Yeah, caring, really caring. And you mentioned that. Let's expand a little bit on one of those themes. And by the way, beautifully said, very important superpower. Starts with listening. But you and I both are aware, because we're students of sales, that there's tons of content everywhere that selling starts with listening, and we have two ears and one mouth, and so we should use those proportionally. Blah, 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 right?
100%.
But most sellers don't listen authentically. How do you do that?
I'm glad you asked. I take this device called a pen and a piece of paper.
Wait, are you saying it's as easy as taking notes?
It is literally as easy as taking notes. It's asking a question, taking out a piece of paper, letting the person know that you need to write down a rough outline of what they've just said to you. And I do humbly make fun of myself and say, I don't have the greatest memory. Been in rock and roll bands just a little too long, so perhaps it's my hard of hearing. But by writing things down is not just to look at them and recall them later. The physical act of putting that pen or pencil on a piece of paper, A, helps me, but it also shows the other human that I'm speaking with that I actually care, enough to do that. And when I watch young salespeople ask a question and they just sit there, I'm like, you don't have a photographic memory, man. Nobody does. Write it down. Write it down, and don't take your laptop out and start typing. That's not the way it's done. I got
to be honest though. I got to push back a little bit on that. I have found myself lately using more of the laptop for the notes than the pen, just because I can absorb so much more. But I always announce, hey, the typing you hear are your words going down into my notes. So I feel it's kind of the same, the same thing.
I will, and you and I, that's one of the reasons, we make each other better, hopefully. We're allowed to have friction, and we're allowed to agree to disagree. To me, once a device comes out, period, in a conversation, it changes the course of that conversation.
You're right.
That's my opinion.
No, you're right, and it is a very nice compliment. Again, when we are face-to-face with someone, all bets are off with the majority of meetings that now happen over Zoom, right? I mean, that's just totally different animal. But you're right, face-to-face, I probably do bring out the notebook a little bit more frequently, so I'll defend myself there. Sure. Love it. Thank you. Hey, let's do the shameless plug on this next chapter for MySalesDay. I know you're an avid fan. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of feedback that you give for the newsletter. Is there any post that has happened or that you've read recently that's kind of hit a nerve that you want to share and expand upon?
100%. Your posts, human speaking, your value proposition.
Oh, that was just a few days ago. Yeah. You have good instincts. While well-intentioned, your team creates messages that are not street ready. To avoid sounding like a web page, translate your VP into human speak, which is just a stupid little term I came up with to say, you got to make it yours. The danger, though, forget about the plug here for the newsletter. The danger is that sellers everywhere don't talk enough about value because the value prop that they are given is too clinical and it just doesn't work. And that scares me because then we default towards talking too much about features, process, answering questions that are not at the core of what the buyer should think about your value. So you hit a nerve for both of us, big boy. Hey, this is why I talk value prop once or twice a month. I've got to repeat these themes to keep reminding us that we as sellers have to put in the extra work to make our benefit package really smartly understood by the customer.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Sure. 100%.
Next segment, it's called the sales life. In the newsletter, I use that term to frequently describe the various elements of what it takes to perform at a high level. Like it's a catch-all phrase, right? It describes everything you need to succeed, including your perspective and approach to dealing with challenges, how you regularly apply habits and skills, and of course, attitude and discipline. So I'm curious how you think about the sales life through, for example, here's a question for you. What are the common mistakes that you see others make? Other sellers make, sorry, other sellers make. Obviously, not taking notes is one of them. We get that one. But what else do you see?
Using devices. The biggest mistake I see, I'm obviously a little bit older than most people that I work with these days, is truly focusing on quantity versus quality.
Oh, I love it.
There's one person at my current company that literally, and we had one of these people that we used to work with together, Michael. They had a quota of how many emails had to be sent out a day. And they would come in. I know you know who I'm talking about. He was from another continent.
Dude, you're talking about a lot of people. You're not, I know.
Yeah, but there was one guy we had to sack together because he did this. And he would walk in, and he had a number, whatever it was, and he would go, and it would hit 3 o'clock, and he would say, I'm done. And he'd close his computer. Yeah. And guess what? Yeah. He had no pipeline. He had no sales calls. He had no revenue. But he had fulfilled his quota of the day. So there's no thought.
Brian, soon after that, he had no job.
He had no job. And that was, I wouldn't say there's some people in our careers we've actually enjoyed letting go because in the good spirit of things, if the relationship is not working for both parties, one may want to exit, so we decided to exit with this person, right? That was, and it was better for them, and it was better for us. But again, juxtaposed against that, I probably sent out to this day 20% of my quoted amount of emails or correspondence that I'm supposed to send, and I'm not advocating that, but I am advocating that if the quality of those gets me a better response rate, communicates my value proposition better, gets me a meeting, gets me a piece of incremental business, and I will do that all day long. And since I'm still, knock wood, gainfully employed where I am, I guess it's working for me.
Well, you've learned the secret that when you research the prospect, when you put a little time into what they care about, what they want, and obviously you expressed that earlier when we talked about some of the previous threads that we were on, then you're more apt to get an attention and more apt to get engagement. But I want to point something out. You said something, and it's one of my favorite lines in sales. Less is more. Less talking. Less words in a proposal. Less email content. We're a little afraid as sellers of dead air and white space. And it's understandable. We are so rushed. We think we have a 30-minute meeting, and we start the meeting, and the buyer says, hey, I only have 10 minutes. Oh, shit, what do I do now? Well, the point isn't to fill every one of those 30 minutes or every one of those 10 minutes. It's to focus on your one or two agenda items that, to your earlier points about building trust and figuring out what the customer wants, you learn by asking really good questions. White space, dead air, it's not a bad thing. Less is more.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And if I may give you, I have to give you an anecdote of a gentleman we both worked for once.
Okay.
And I'll never forget the moment. He taught me so much about less is more. We got in a cab, and we were going to a sales call, and he's a big time guy, and I was on the lower levels, but I was building. And I was very nervous and anxious to be around him heading to a sales call. And I had sent him an email earlier that morning, and he hadn't responded yet. So we're in the cab, and he's the type of guy that really doesn't talk to you while you're going to a sales call.
So he doesn't just go for less is more. He goes for nothing is more.
Nothing. But here was the most valuable lesson one of the valuable lessons he taught. So I'm looking at his phone as he's scrolling through, and I see he's like looking, delete, and I see my name come up on the thing. Swear to God, and it says Brian McFarland, and he looks and he goes delete. I went, wait, name. I needed you to read that. And he said, and I'm not going to say the F word, and he goes, if it's more than one effing sentence, it's too long. And I went, oh. And it was like the heaven and the stars opened up because I went, this guy does not have time to, he got 50 emails and he's reading them as we're going in a cab from one place to other. And it was such a metaphor for what our clients, right? There's 7,000 of you and I. There's only 100 clients that we're all chasing, saying the same stuff. And we expect them to read our stuff or to listen to our babble or blah, blah, blah. They don't. They don't. So if you can't, his thing was, if you can't say them in the subject line in one sentence, I'm deleting your note. So less is more.
Less is more, and that was a really great lesson. Some leaders actually do read emails, but for the most part, he's looking for, hey, the building is on fire type of emails, and that's what is going to command his attention. Correct. Everything else, he's going to get the debrief on this sales call on the cab ride to that meeting from you. He'll learn what he needs. If he's a pro, he'll learn that. Love it. Okay, other question in the sales life. This is a big theme, and it's, to be honest, one of my motivations for publishing the newsletter and doing this podcast, which is trying to provide emotional support for sellers out there, because quite frankly, it's brutal being a seller these days. The headwinds, the turbulence, it's tough, right? And often, as you know, just hearing that anecdote about your value proposition, the turbulence is sometimes generated inside of from inside of the organization. How do you, Brian McFarland, deal with the turbulence and gyrations of the sales life? You've been doing it 31 years, 45 overall. Obviously, you got some formula. How do you deal with it?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. It's, first off, when I got into this business, I was a pretty thin-skinned, I would say overly sensitive person. And that will not serve you well. I'm as emotionally in touch with myself and others. However, I have developed a thicker skin to allow things that are just out of my control to roll off my back and just realize that that's the way things are going to be. And I've been everything from an individual contributor to a CRO and everything in between. So I've seen every single side of how this all works. And it's, I forget the exact quote, but it was, don't look at the clock, just keep going. The clock just keeps going, right?
Yeah, so do what the clock does. Yeah.
Do what the clock does. Just keep moving forward. Yeah. So, yeah, you take a punch to the head, metaphorically, and whatever, and you get knocked down. But what are you going to do? Lay on the ground? Like, get your butt up and keep moving. Yeah. So you get through the turbulence by just continuing your path onward, because it's all going to be okay. Said. And you're going to get to the end of the day, and you're going to go to sleep, and you're going to wake up, and tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you. We have literally 1.5 minutes for the final segment, but it's a good one. It's titled, Didn't See That Coming. And of course, it refers to a sticky situation that either happened or is happening, and how'd you do it? So hate to only give you 90 seconds, but
that's okay.
Do your best.
Sure. So built up an incredible agency out of nothing down in an outer market about 2.5 years ago. Business is flowing. Everything's going great. Going to visit. Key person leaves. Within 30 days, business starts fading south dramatically. Management's asking, what's going on, where's the ROI, whatnot. And the aha moment was getting an appointment with a person much younger than myself, who turned out to be one of the wisest people I ever met. And at a breakfast, she informed me that I had lost the trust I had worked so hard to gain, because I had become a bit robotic in always asking for something as opposed to delivering something.
Whoa.
And for a veteran like myself to hear that from someone 20 years my junior, it was both heartbreaking, but then also heartwarming. And we departed that meeting and she asked to give me a hug, which I'm very politically correct, so I make sure I only at someone's insistence, because she felt so compassionate for me, but she was so empowered because I listened to her tell me something that was really hard to hear, but if she didn't tell me, I couldn't have fixed it. So now we're on a better path, and I've rejiggered. It was a life-changing conversation, Michael, at this age.
That is, wow. No comment other than that's a great lesson for everyone, that it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, we still make errors in judgment, we make mistakes, and yet if we are open-hearted and open-minded, we also can move past them and repair things, and that's what you did.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's end it there, but actually we'll end it with the one thing. What's the one thing you want our listeners to take from today, given the different stories we hit on and topics? What's the one thing you got? And then I'll give you my one thing.
It sounds redundant, but it is within the gaining trust segment, and it is be a human being. It's that simple. Just be a human being.
Yeah.
Someone is not a dollar sign. They don't want to be looked at as a dollar sign. And if you look at them as any other thing than an actual human being of flesh and life in front of you, they see right through you, and you'll never, ever have their trust.
I love it. For me, the one thing is when you were talking about early on the trust and gaining trust, focus on what they want. If you focus 100% on what the buyer wants, it's pretty rare that you are going to go wrong. So I take that as the one thing. All righty. We got to let Brian McFarland go so he can close more deals. But first, I want to remind our listeners why they joined us. You listened because you are trying to be the best pro you can be, even if it's a little thing that you picked up today or by reading MySalesDay. It could make a huge difference in your selling, but your mind has got to be open. Brian, thank you a ton for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You know I loved it. And for you and everyone, remember, better habits equal better selling. Thank you for listening to My Sales Day. It was great having you here. For more, listen to our other episodes on your favorite podcast platform. And while you're there, leave us a review. I care what you think. And because I'm a seller like you, I got thick skin, so I can take anything you got. You can also visit MySalesDay.io to join our email list and community dedicated to sellers just like you. My Sales Day is a podcast by sellers for sellers. And if you got something out of today's episode, help out a friend by sharing this episode with them. My Sales Day is proudly produced in partnership with Westport Studios. Views and opinions expressed by guests on My Sales Day are their own and may not reflect the views and opinions of their organization. Start your sales day the right way with My Sales Day. I'll see you in our next episode and in the daily newsletter.